Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to do sort of a testimony and the reason I'm doing this is because I presented this testimony as like a message at my church this morning for College Sunday, and I really haven't told this whole story to a lot of people. Just the closest people to me know this story. A lot of people at church this morning said how much they loved it, so I thought maybe I should share on my YouTube channel, and then that will reach even more people. So I'm going to explain really quick that the sermon that I wrote up is this right here. It is called Major Blessings. And you will see why throughout this, why it's called Major Blessings, and I hope in some way maybe this will help someone watching, so just keep watching now. So if you don't know, I am now a senior at Marshall University, and I am majoring in elementary education. I'm going to start with a quick overview of high school and then jump right into my college years. In high school, I was very active. I played soccer in the fall. I did show choir year-round. And on the weekends, I would have games, I would have competitions, I would have fundraising events. I was really busy, and I'd go to school from 8 to 3:15 and then go straight to practice most days. So I was a really busy girl. I was in this routine for 4 years, and then that's when college came around. I was also involved in Captivate, which was the youth program at my church, and I was surrounded by a great group of friends. I could laugh with them and talk about Jesus with them. So the reason I am telling you this is that I kept myself pretty busy all the time. In college, you do have quite a bit more free time than in high school, but that also can make you feel pretty lonely at times when you're just studying by yourself for a long period of time. Being in college has matured me quite a bit and helped me draw closer to God along the way. When I started college, I was excited, but I was also nervous. I felt like I knew Marshall pretty well because both of my parents went there and my brother went there, and that's when our parents met. We went to football games. They were literally all of my life. So I knew Marshall pretty well, and I was pretty sure I was gonna love it just as much as they did. College move-in day is a day that I think I will remember forever. Even though I was only moving an hour and a half away and quite possibly would be going home almost every weekend, I was still nervous. I wouldn't have my dad to make me my eggs every morning. I wouldn't have my mom to do my laundry, and I wouldn't have my pets to be there cuddling with me all the time. So now I'm at my first major blessing. I got an amazing roommate. As many of you know, for the first 2 years of college, I was roommates with Sammy, and I still am. And that was my first major blessing that God knew I needed. I didn't have to deal with the stress of getting assigned a random roommate, but I got a roommate that I knew who was a Christian, and I was pretty positive we would get along okay. Now before I go any farther, I am going to tell you that my freshman year was the hardest on me emotionally. Right before moving, my boyfriend at the time broke up with me. Looking back, this was one of the best things that could have happened to me, and God knew that it needed to happen. But during that time, I felt like as if my life was crashing down. I didn't understand why it had to happen and why I had to go through all of this pain. But now I look back and see that it was my second major blessing. The heartbreak was my second blessing. The heartbreak is what guided me closer to God. That relationship wasn't healthy for me, and I think people saw that, but at the time I didn't. So, no matter how many times my mom would tell me that everything would work out in God's plan, I didn't understand how. Now, going back to move-in day, I didn't know Sammy that well, but I was excited to grow a new friendship. We had a lot of firsts together. For example, we got lost walking to CVS, which was like across the street behind our building, so we didn't see it. We went like all the way around and then found it. We went on midnight ice cream runs together. We met a lot of new people together on our floor. We started new friendships, and we were trying to figure out our schedules and not get lost on campus. So much. As Sam and I got closer, she saw how I was struggling with the recent breakup and was doing her best to make me smile on my hardest days. I remember waking up every now and then and she would bring me a coffee and place it on my on the desk beside me and just write something, a little sweet note on it. She would listen to my struggles and help me on endless amount of math homework. By the end of that semester, I knew that I really lucked out with a roommate like her. By my second semester, I was doing a little better, but I was still struggling a lot. I thought maybe I was depressed, so I clung to God more than ever before. I would read the Bible every day, pray more than I ever had, and that is why I am where I am today. I would pray for Him to take the sadness away and pray for more strong Christian friendships. Feeling alone is one of the worst feelings. So I would search out Bible verses to help me along the way. I talked to my mom and told her that I may be depressed and how I felt sad all of the time. Marshall offers free counseling, so that was my next step in my journey. I didn't really want to take this step because I didn't want people to know that I was in a dark place. So I just didn't tell a lot of people. I didn't realize that counseling is nothing to be ashamed of, and it helps out a person a lot. I did this for a few months, and I was taking baby steps back to my happy, normal self. My counselor would ask me what made me feel the most happy, and I would tell her that going to BCM were my favorite nights of the week. And when I was sad, I would try to read my Bible or listen to K-Love or just talk to someone about how I was feeling. She then suggested putting sticky notes up with Bible verses on my mirror. So when I look in the mirror, I would read these, or just positive quotes she suggested. So I did that, and it did help. Backing up a little bit to the beginning of my second semester, Holly transferred to Marshall. We started hanging out more in our free time, and we realized that we made pretty great friends. We'd often bond over going to the gym together and talking about anything and everything, or just about our favorite Netflix show. So that is my third major blessing. Through all of my struggles freshman year, one prayer that I prayed the most was for good friendships. And God gave me two of the best friends I could have ever asked for. Second semester was a very slow healing process, but God was doing what I asked. I realized that the more I pray, the more I dig into His Word, that the more I do feel His presence. So that's what I kept doing along the way. This resulted in Him healing wounds that I never thought could be healed. So all in all, as you can tell, my first year of college was an emotional roller coaster. But I drew near to God during these times, made some amazing friendships, met some amazing people, was active in BCM, which is Baptist Campus Ministries, on campus, and my iTeens, which is a branch off of that, and it's a Bible study. But I was getting all of my core classes out of the way as well. As I mentioned before, I prayed a lot during this year. I prayed for healing, I prayed for friends, and I also prayed that God would send me a man like my father. Faithful, loving, caring, and most of all, a man who loved Jesus more than anything. I needed someone who would push me in my faith, and someone who wouldn't play with my emotions, and someone who could make me laugh. And this is where I get to my fourth major blessing. Backtracking to my freshman year is where I met Grant. Grant was on the same floor as Sam and I my freshman year, and Sammy and I got to know him over bonding over pizza and his love for my cupcakes. The summer after my freshman year is when Holly and I went to a concert in Cleveland, which is where he is from. So he offered us a room at his parents' house. We got to know Grant better and his parents as well. On our first date to the Cheesecake Factory later that summer, before we ate, Grant asked me if he could pray. No one had ever done that on a date with me before. I knew he was something special, and I knew that God had a purpose for all of this. Grant and I agreed that before we started dating, that God had to be the center of our relationship or this wasn't going to work. So that is what we have done. When I started my sophomore year, I was beyond happy with the way everything was playing out. I had two amazing friends at Marshall and now an amazing boyfriend as well. In my sophomore year, I began getting into my teaching classes. So I started going into the schools for my clinicals and making relationships with the children. And though my classes were challenging, Each time a student would run to me and say, "Miss Carrie, Miss Carrie," I knew I was going into the right profession. This year was also the year I had to pass my Praxis 1, which is a test you take to get into the teaching program. And I passed all 3 of these by the end of that semester. I also found out that if I did push myself, I could graduate a whole semester early from college. The struggle I went through my sophomore year was the loss of my 2 grandfathers. Even though these were some of the saddest moments of my life, they brought both sides of my family together and helped us remember all of the good times. But it helps us remember that they aren't suffering anymore and that they are with God. So now we are at my junior year, which started this past fall. I moved into my first apartment with Sam and Holly, which was so exciting. I managed to take 18 hours and 30 clinical hours. It was extremely challenging at times, and now I am relieved it's over. By the end of the semester, I am now qualified as a senior in the elementary education program. This coming semester, I will have 18 hours again with over 120 clinical hours. When I complete these hours and pass all of my Praxis 2 tests, which I am in the process of studying for now, I will be doing my student teaching in the fall of 2019, and that is my 5th major blessing. I say this because teaching is something that I have fell in love with, and I wouldn't be able to be where I am today without my parents' help in every way, financially, emotionally. They've been with me every step of the way. Looking back, everything was lined up in God's plan in just the span of 2.5 years. My life has changed tremendously, and so have I as a person. So now, I'm just going to read a few verses from Psalms, and it's verses 1 through 3. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but those who delight in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in seasons, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. These verses have played a really strong role in my life. I've learned that in order for things to get better, for sadness and sorrows to heal, the only solution is to draw closer to the Lord. That is what I did through every struggle, and it was the best possible thing I could have done. What I have learned is to not just praise Him in the bad times, but the good times as well. Just because things seem good now, when things go crashing down, you want your relationship to be there and to be as strong as ever. Going into college with a relationship with God is what saved me. And if I had any advice for someone going into college, it would be to find a good friend group. Go to BCM or a Christian ministry and just find a good, supportive friend group that you know you can count on. Even though college is full of new experiences and may seem scary at first, walking through this chapter of life with God would be the best decision